friends. It's October, which means we are halfway through the r/fantasy Reddit book bingo challenge thing that's going on. Boy, does the time fly. So, pretty sure that I posted my TBR of books that I was probably going to try and maybe get to within this year, starting April 1st through March 31st of 2026. Things that I was interested in picking up for the R Fantasy. This is my third year participating. And I set out my TBR, as I always do, and I've made almost minimal progress. Like, there's not really a whole lot going on with my board. Depending on how I want to count things, and like, if starting to have read the book counts, like, I've started Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, I just haven't finished it. So it's like, am I counting what I've started on the TBR or not? So I've anywhere from between like 5 and 7 books I've finished on this bingo board, which isn't fantastic, but per usual fashion with challenges and readathons, you read other stuff and they work for other things. So this is kind of the check-in to show you like where I'm at based off things that I've read and like what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for things, where I'm still needing to read stuff, so on and so forth. I don't remember exactly everything that counts for hard mode versus easy mode, so I'll do my best to walk you guys through it if I can, but there's no like super guarantees for all of that. If you're looking for some ideas though, this might be helpful. So let's just jump right in. We're gonna get through all of these prompts. It might take a little bit. So we have the very first square, which is Paladins and Knights. Initially, I was planning to read Paladin's Grace. I still want to get around to that. I've been, back and forth with T. Kingfisher, especially this year. But a different T. Kingfisher that I read that works for this square was Thornhedge. We are following a girl and her kind of sort of associate friend man who wants to like help rescue a damsel. He's a knight though at the end of the day, and so that kind of works for this. I also read The Starving Saints, which is by Caitlin Starling. It's a medieval weird fever dream of a horror, but it was a lot of, I don't know if fun is the correct word, but I enjoyed my time for the most part. But we have Sir Voyne, who is basically a knight for the king, very close guard woman. 2 other books that I have started but have not yet finished would be The Knight and the Moth. Obviously, Knight is in the title. This is by Rachel Gillig. I am so excited for this one. And the other one is The Second Death of Locke, which, again, a knight, I'm assuming. So not a whole lot of paladins really going on. Paladins are a little bit different. I think it's nice to have the distinction of like knights, because knights are more common just with like anything medieval, historical. But the hard mode is that the knight has like an oath that they're bound to. And I know Paladin's Grace will be good for hard mode. I'm not so sure about these other ones. There's not really an oath to anybody so far, but haven't finished them all. So that's where we're at with that square. For the Hidden Gem square, I have an easy mode book that I read, which was A Game in Yellow. This has less than, 1,000, 5,000? Under 1,000 ratings. I'm sure that I've read more. Hard mode is that it's an older book that came out more than 5 years ago. We'll have to wait and see how I do. I have one on my TBR that I mentioned in the last video on my shelf, so hopefully I can get to that, but that's where we're at. The next 2, womp womp womp, I have not read anything from the 80s that counts, and I've not read anything with high fashion. So my previous ideas still stand if I want to pick up Matilda, if I want to read a vampire romance, and then for high fashion I have an Alison Saft idea, so that's where we're at with that. The next one is Down with the System, and hard mode is It's Not the Government. The first one that I've read, Blood Over Brighthaven, and therefore that one is more government, even if it's like technically a school, it's like government adjacent, so I'm not going to count that for hard mode. But The Last Graduate, the sequel to A Deadly Education, as you know from Trick or Treat Day 2, I read A Deadly Education, so I quickly jumped into the sequel. I'm very intrigued by the series, so Down with the School, which like is still kind of intrigued, sort of tied, like the enclaves are kind of not quite governments, I don't know, kind of hard to explain, but I think that it counts for hard mode. The next square, Impossible Places. This was like the perfect month. All of my friends really came through with me completing the square, like hard mode and all, because Dungeon Crawler Carl, A Deadly Education, and The Incandescents all work for Impossible Places, because 2 are set in like this void liminal demon space, and Dungeon Crawler Carl, terrible title, is set in like the Earth's crust kind of because of like aliens and again impossible places. All fun books. I definitely recommend checking them out, but I truly have my friends to thank for completing this square. The next one is A Book in Parts. This one's pretty easy if you read a lot of fantasy. It's quite common. For this I slotted in Blood Justice. This is the sequel to, oh boy do I remember, oh this is so embarrassing, I read it like 2 years ago. Blood Justice is a sequel though to what I'm assuming is going to be a trilogy because we ended on a cliffhanger again. Gets me every time. But this book is told in many parts. We're following twin siblings who are really going through it. It's set in New Orleans, outlawed magic. It is a very interesting series. It's very long. They're very chunky fantasy books, but they're told in parts. The next one is maybe my favorite square for this entire year, which is Gods and Pantheons. I already mentioned the Starving Saints. That has a whole pantheon, so it works for hard mode. But another one that I want to like lightly shout out is the Jissid Crown. This is the sequel to the Jissid Heir. There is gods mentioned, but I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but there are gods in this world and they are loosely mentioned throughout the series. They're not like the super, it's like historical gods type of thing. But another one, historical gods mentioned, the game's Gods Play. It's all about Greek gods and a tournament and falling in love with Hades. Classic. So yeah, those were all good for hard mode, I would say. But I love a meddling gods trope. There was meddling gods in Blood Justice. There's been so many. There's quite a few. That's one of my favorite tropes though, so I'm always happy to see it represented on a board like this. It's just, it's so good. Anyway, moving on. Last in a Series is the next one, and I technically checked it off, but they were like the Amazon originals, very small series, but there's 5 of them, so it kind of counts. They are horror, speculative, so it does count, but if I can, check this off with like a novel or something, I try not to do too many short things or too many graphic novels for this challenge, just to push myself a little bit more. I have read the Shivers collection, so the letter slot technically concludes this one. Initially, I had one of the Red Rising books, and I was like, girl, you haven't finished the series. So I took that one off. The next square is a book club or read-along, and you have to participate in that month. And I am on the Goodreads group for our fantasy, so I see what they're reading each month, and I read with them Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and I did not like this. I'm so sorry. I know this is very popular and people really enjoy it. It did not work for me, but I read it in the month that it was read, and therefore I checked off hard mode. And we'll see if I pick anything up again. I do like this, as there's, I think, 4 different options of like books that you can pick from each month, but you really have to stay on top of it because they don't really like send out alerts or messages or anything, and sometimes you don't hear from them for a few months and you're like, nothing's happened, but things are going on. So that's that one. Next row, let's move on to Parent Protagonist. I have a graphic novel for this, which I read, Saga Volume 1. We're following 2 parents who just have a baby on the run. Aliens, space, there's a ghost girl. It was interesting. Again, Saga is such like a beloved series that like I want to love it, but it was like just so I haven't continued yet, but I do kind of want to continue still just because there's so much hype around the series, and once like the last book came out, there was so much hype and craze for it, so I'm like, maybe we'll try it again in the future. Another book that I have for this is Kings of the Wild. I don't know if you would classify this as hard mode, seeing as Rose, the child that they're like on this adventure to go save, isn't technically in the novel. Like, she has her own companion novel, but she's only like really at the end. So I don't think this should count for hard mode. So it's fine, but we are following a bunch of dads. A whole lot of dads going on an adventure to save one of their daughters. It's fun. It's a good time. It's very Dungeons and Dragons. You can definitely see all of the inspiration to just like being so fun fantasy. But yeah, I do recommend it. It was a very good time. I think a lot of people would love it. The next prompt was honestly maybe one of the easiest, even though I've technically not finished one of the books, but epistolary, the entire book being written in letters basically, or journal entries. I have finished the 3rd Emily Wilde book, which counts for this and hard mode, but I also have like started the Buffalo Hunter, and that's also like all told in journal entries, which I find very interesting. It's not my favorite writing style just because I have a really hard time being like, there's no way that a diary would be this specific and accurate. Like, you wouldn't have every, like, little detail of motions that were happening or, like, all the conversations and exact dialogue. So I just, like, sometimes have to just suspend my disbelief and, like, take myself out of the actual writing style to enjoy it. But it is overall nice and weirdly easy this year. The next one is debuts published in 2025 for the hard mode. I have read Silver Elite. Technically, I can't even keep up with, like, all of the Danny Francis conversations. Like, I don't know if they are an established author and have written stuff in another name, like under their actual name, and this is like a pen name to differentiate their genres, or if this is genuinely like their first debut. So I don't actually know if this counts. Sorry. So I do have a second one, which is The House of Beth, and this is a speculative, quaint little town horror. I don't really want to call it a romance. It's definitely interesting, and I definitely liked the direction that it headed, and I like the ending. I think it's very interesting. It's a very weird one. I definitely would love to have more conversations with people about this book because I did like it, but at the same time, like, not a lot really happens, and it's just interesting. But also, like, ends bad. I don't know. Anywho, I read House of Beth, which was a debut novel. And then we have the next one, which is a horror book, hard mode, written by a POC author. I have Julie Chan is Dead. I have The Ballad of Black Tom. I'm sure there will be plenty more. Obviously, Stephen Graham Jones, any horror of his, like I Was a Teenage Slasher, Buffalo Hunter, like those will also work for this one. Honestly, probably one of the easiest prompts, and if you struggle with completing hard mode on this, like, you are lame. Sorry, I said it. I'm in a weird mood today. I don't know why. The next one, I have the most difficult time with hard mode. I technically, like, marginalized author would mean, oh, wait, no. Well, okay, well, I'm now brain clicking. So, small press or self-published book, hard mode, under 100 ratings on Goodreads, not possible, or by a marginalized author. Technically, women are like a marginalized group, but sometimes it feels like a little bit cheaty to do that. But I just realized that the Chromatic Fantasy, which is like the first book I had slotted in for this, is written by a trans author. So, like, obviously that would count as a marginalized author, even though there's more than 100 ratings. But I don't think there's enough rating. I think more people probably should pick this graphic novel up. I really enjoyed the art style. I liked the story. There was definitely some bits and pieces where, like, we were time jumping that got a little bit confusing, but overall, a good time. The other one that I have, of course, is Mating with the Mantis. Also underrated. I think it deserves more, but it's not quite under 100. So, but it's a lot of fun. It's one of the funniest books that I've read this entire year, and it was a blast. And I had so much fun with my friends, and I'm happy I read it. So, take that. Onto the fourth row, we have Biopunk. Technically, I put The Tainted Cup down, which is a reread for me, but I've not yet actually finished the reread because I'm listening to the audiobook with my boyfriend, but we haven't been, like, going on road trips or leaving the house as much, so we haven't really had a lot of audiobook time. We've got like 8 hours left. Will I finish it by March? Yes, most definitely, but I just haven't yet. But, like, I'm not going to move things around, and I honestly haven't bothered finding a replacement for this either because that just seems difficult. Onto the second square, we have Elves and Dwarves. I have not continued my reread of Bow Before the Elf Queen, that series. The final book just came out, Night Meets the Elf Queen. It's a shame, it's embarrassing that I have not read it yet, but I also know that the audiobook for the fourth one won't come out for a while because she was having life troubles, things were happening, so the release got pushed, and so getting the narrators to do the audiobook this year, which is like wouldn't happen, so hopefully it'll come out next year. You don't care about all this. Basically, I have not read my Elf Queen books, so I haven't read my Elf Protagonist, but Cursed Cocktails does technically count for this. I don't remember specifically all of the races, but this is cozy, and we'll talk about it again here shortly. But this one I do believe works for hard mode, but is not my desired book for the slot, because I want to pick up my Night Queen series. Anyways, moving on. Queer protagonist, easy, and hard mode is that they're marginalized in other ways, not just being queer. So, disability, ethnicity, etc. I have for this A Magical Girl Retires, and I also have The Sins on Their Bones. I hated The Sins on Their Bones. It's one of my least favorite books that I've maybe ever read. I feel a lot of like anger towards it, resentment, frustration that it had to be my milestone book for this year. Whole reading vlogs on the channel with all the trigger warnings and spoilers. I'm glad that at the very least I can check it off on my bingo board to be like, look, I did my hard mode, it's done. This book counted for something. I also have A Magical Girl Retires, which is a very short little magical realism fantasy of a girl with superpowers, but the underdog comes on top. Credit card debt and all. Very silly, very millennial, very fun. The next square is 5 short stories, and the hard mode is to like read the entire anthology. For this, I have not read a lot of anthologies this year, which is maybe not that abnormal, but like also I feel like I read more than 2. But I have read Seven Empty Houses by Samantha Schweblin, and there's 7 books technically in this little collection. So it counts. One of them is a ghosty or horror, semi-speculative. So it counts, and we're running with it. And then the final square in this row is A Stranger in a Strange Land. For this, initially, I have All Systems Red by Martha Wells, because yes. And then I also have Blood Over Bright Haven. Tommel kind of is a fish out of water, like he's from a different area and like comes to the city basically, but it's like, yeah, it counts. I think it counts. It's just like a little bit, but overall, decent picks. Okay, final row. Let's go. The first one is To Recycle a Bingo Square from Years Past. Our fantasy started in 2015, from my understanding. This whole bingo thing started in 2015, and I was going through the list and I'm like, okay, 2015, fairy tale retelling, perfect. 2016, 2017, 2018. The book that I had chosen for fairy tale retelling has worked for almost every year after. I didn't go through the whole list. I kind of was like, okay, we're tapping out at like 2020. But A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Apparently this is my Kingfisher year. This works for so many of the prompts. Like it's a dark fantasy, it's a retelling, it's so many things. I think there was one of the prompts for 2020. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it worked for the normal prompt and also the hard mode prompt. So I've checked off everything I needed for this square. But I love our fantasy, so it's fun to like go back and see past bingo boards that I never participated in because I didn't know it existed. So very fun, very cool. A good way to celebrate 10 years. The next square is maybe my least favorite square, and I don't typically swap anything out, so I'm not going to, but if I was to ever swap something, it would probably be the square. I don't care for a cozy book, I know. It's just not for me. I have quite a few cozies on my shelf, so I do want to get them read, figure out if I want to keep them or not. So we'll see how it goes, because like in theory, I love the idea of cozy, but just in practice, it's kind of so-so. So obviously I mentioned this prior, but Cursed Cocktails is like a cozy. It's very Legends and Lattes, but make it a bar, pretty much. It's very, very similar, but if you're into booze and less so coffee, it might be a great pick for you. There's a gay romance instead of a sapphic romance. It's just, same but different. And then the other one I have is So This Is Ever After by a new author to me. So it works for the hard mode. Is this the most cozy? Maybe not, but it came out before cozy was really like coined as a genre that people loved this much. And I would say that it does count. Like it's low stakes, you know how it's going to end, you're getting to know a lot of characters, and it just gives you like good, nice feelings. So yeah, I would say that it does count, but it's not like the most cozy book of all time, And then maybe my favorite prompt for this year, maybe the last couple of years. And I know I said that the Gods of Pantheon was my favorite, but this one might actually be my like actual favorite, but it's a generic title. So it needs to have specific words in the title, and hard mode needs to have either 2 of the words or number, color, or animal. And it's so funny to me that this is one of the things kind of poking fun at all of the many romantasy titles that share a lot of similarities. So my 2 picks for this were 5 Broken Blades, which I read back in, I want to say June for Scallywagathon. So, but I want to continue in the series. And then I also have one of my favorite books from this entire year, Thrown in the Dark, which is double words. Thrown and dark both count. And this is one of my favorite series. I love it so dearly. So overall, a good square. I read a lot of romantasy, so it's pretty easy for me, but there's a lot of non-romantasy picks that you could also easily slot into this square, but overall, good square. And then another really good and interesting square this year is not a book. Do something not reading, which is, okay, sure. Watch a movie, play a video game, board game, do other things, pretty much. And I've slotted in Expedition 33 for this because it is the best video game that's come out in such a long time. Like, I know Baldur's Gate is probably right there next to it, but God, Expedition 33 is the best game that I have played in so freaking long. It really fills like that Kingdom Hearts hole in my heart where it's like, oh, I love Kingdom Hearts so much, but like you only can replay something so often before you're getting like a little bit tired of it. And Expedition 33 like perfectly fills that little Kingdom Hearts hole. I love it so much. It's my favorite video game of the last 10 years. Like, it's crazy. It's such a good game. Thank you to the one person on Instagram who posted it, and I weirdly was like, I'll try that, and then fell in love. So good. So yeah, that was my not a book, and I'm so pleased with it. And the final square, last bingo row, we have pirates, hard mode, non-seafaring pirates. So for easy mode, I listened to Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Peach K, who is a YouTube simmer. She plays The Sims professionally, and she wrote a book. It's a young adult Little Mermaid retelling, and we're following a pirate. And they are on the sea, obviously. And then for the hard mode, I'm doubling up, but also, like, we'll have to wait and see by the end if it really, like, obviously doubling up isn't supposed to happen in this challenge. So I'm doubling up for the purposes of, like, keeping track of what I have accomplished and haven't accomplished, but by the end, I won't, you know? You get me. All Systems Red is, like, non-seafaring pirates. So it works for hard mode, and I needed something for hard mode. So yes, that is everything. Those are all of the books that I have read so far this year that slot in. I'm sure there's more books that I've read that I just didn't think of, but also you have to like not include the first 3 months of the year, so that also makes it a little bit challenging. But I think I'm pretty content with where I'm at for this part, like time in the year, seeing as this was my original TBR and how bad it looks, and then like being able to slot it in with other things that I've read just like out of necessity or funsies, whatever. This makes me feel a lot better because I was looking at my original TBR and I was like, oh boy, I don't know if I'm gonna finish all of these in time because I don't necessarily like have video plans. Like I don't make exclusive reading vlogs for our fantasy, so I'm like, oh no. But I've made it work. I've made it work and I'm pretty proud. As long as I read something published in the 80s and I read something with high fashion, I will have done the thing, and that feels good to me. So, with all of that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me as the sun is falling. Don't have as much daylight to film videos as I used to. I'm not a summer girly, but I do like the natural sunlight for filming from summer. But I'm happy that it's fall. I'm happy that it gets dark early. I'm happy that it's cozier. So anywho, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Let me know how your reading challenge of our fantasy is going now that we're halfway through the year. And I will see you guys tomorrow for my next video. Bye!